That's pretty weird. Yeah, we got everybody.
All right. Hello again, everybody. We're going to start up again with what is obvious, which is the justice system. So I'm actually just going to be doing the introduction here of the team working on the justice system, and just remind you of a couple of things as we're closing up. So again, everything you've heard over the past 2 days there is a possibility. This is game development, that a lot of the details will change as we get into implementation, as we get into those things. I know you've probably heard a lot of disclaimers, so I just thought I'd add one more to the mix there. And again, when we talk about timelines, just remember that any timeline is subject to change, which is why we try not to give an end date. We try to give a quality mark we're shooting for, and so I know that can be frustrating, but that's why we do it, because the quality is so much more important than just the end date itself. Okay, so with that, let me introduce some of the people that have been working on the justice team. So here we have Scott Nixon. Scott. Yay. All right.
How y'all doing?
All right. We have Mandy Parker. All right. We have Zach.
How's it going?
All right. And we have Ed Starr. All right. So all of these designers, and Zach is a writer on the team as well, are working to kind of do something different with the justice system. Although we try to prototype everything, I think this is one of the longest and largest prototyping efforts we've ever had. Using the tools we have to make the justice system, it's easy for you to say, justice system something special when we ship it out. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Scott. He's going to go a little bit into how they've made it, as well as what they're making, and what we hope you'll end up with. So with that, Scott Nixon.
Everybody, hello. My name is Scott Nixon. I'm the PO for the justice system. And I've been working on it now for several months, and it's been a really interesting experience, and a really galvanizing experience for me, for a bunch of reasons, and I'm going to go into those. First, from a development side, I found that this has been fantastic in that we've approached this from the point of view of not, you can't do X, you can't do X in MMO, you can't do this in MMO. We've approached this from the, that stuff is difficult, but let's figure out how we can do that sort of thing. And Paul briefly touched on this a little bit, and one of the ways we were able to do that was we did a lot of rapid iteration on prototypes. So we started with a few systems. We started with a paper design, and then we tried to spec those out and actually have those appear in-game in sort of a rough form to kind of prove out what was fun, what wasn't fun. And if anybody had an idea, there was a period of time, it was kind of like a game jam, where if you really wanted something in, you hacked it in, you did whatever you could to get it in there to demonstrate it to people so that they could see it, play it, and then we could evaluate if it was worth it for us to pursue it in a more regimented fashion. A perfect example of that was trespassing and lockpicking on doors. Those were features that we had at one point. They were deemed, they were what we call tier 2, which was kind of pushed back because they weren't seen as important enough. Some content designers felt very strongly that they needed to be included. They scripted solutions to actually have them in game. We did a playtest. Everybody who saw them thought, this is super compelling, we've got to keep it, and those things came back on the table. And that happened a bunch of times throughout this process so far, and it will probably happen some more. So, but the biggest reason why I'm excited about justice is because of what it means for you all. So, what is it going to do for you? It is going to give you a lot more freedom. It's going to give you the freedom to make mistakes. It's going to give you the freedom to commit crimes and then either profit or atone for those crimes. It's going to give you more ways to interact with each other as sort of a lower barrier of entry to PvP for people who might be a little timid about going serial, through the Outlaws and the Enforcers, who are sort of our versions of cops and robbers. Those are the sort of player-based enforcers of justice and breakers of laws. It's going to change the world of Tamriel to behave in a more realistic and organic manner. And that's not just like a buzzword. NPCs' behavior is going to change. They're going to react more realistically. They're going to move around the cities more realistically. It's just going to feel like a more organic, alive world. And it's going to let players decide what sort of world they wish to live in. We've been erring on the side of giving you all a lot of leeway with the system. So there may be towns that, when this drops, degrade into sort of havens of villainy. There may be hot spots for crime. And of course, we're going to introduce things like incentives for the player cops, the enforcers, to go take care of those things as they pop up. But frankly, we would rather break the game in interesting ways than not try anything bold and stagnant. So, and basically, I mean, it's just going to give an additional simulation layer. That's going to make the gameplay experience a lot more Elder Scrolls-like. And I find that all, and we all find that all very exciting. So let's get into the specifics of what Justice is going to introduce. It's going to deliver a set of laws and an infrastructure for enforcing those laws. One of the things we're trying to do is sort of meet a base level of enforcement that requires no player interaction. We are introducing NPC guards who will be able to patrol cities and enact justice if there are no player enforcers around. NPCs themselves are going to behave in a more sort of proactive manner to both witness crime and to either report you and put a bounty on your head or actually attack you, depending on what their personality is. We're introducing an active player-based cops and robbers system, which we call the Outlaws and the Enforcers. They're similar to guilds in some ways, but not always, and they're going to offer special services to the player and skill lines to their members. We'll go into that a little bit later in more detail. But first, let me just show you a little bit of crime stopping in action. Now, it's worth noting that most of these videos are based on prototypes that we made via the content department mostly, so they're not representative of how this is going to appear in the final video. But this is the kind of thing I was talking about when we were doing the rapid iteration. We would do stuff like this to kind of see the reasons enough, and it gave us enough information to know if something was going on. So here, we have an enforcer who, if you can see through the compression, just saw an outlaw do something bad and is chasing him. The enforcer seems like he's trying to go somewhere, and in fact he is. He's trying to reach an outlaw's refuge, which is sort of a safe haven for enforcers, and he did. He got there in time before he was killed by the enforcer, and we'll talk a little more about that as we move. Here's another one. So this is another enforcer who, you'll see in a moment at that doorway, there's someone picking that lock. So he has witnessed the crime, he's going to kill the person, or be killed by the person, depending on what the outcome of combat was, which we don't know. So the other thing that's adding is NPC reactions to crime. Our NPCs are not going to be passive bystanders. That's one of the acceptance criteria of this system. They're going to have behaviors and ways of reacting to crime that will surprise and possibly dismay would-be criminals. So what are the crimes? There are three major categories of crimes that you can commit. There's theft, which is broken down into stealing things from objects like crates or barrels or nightstands. And those things fall under personal property, which can be marked as owned or unowned. If it's unowned, it's not stealing. If it's owned, it's stealing. One of the other things that we're trying to do is make sure, as much as possible, that you can tell at a glance, without having to use a UI element, if something is owned or unowned. So if you see a crate on the road in the middle of the wilderness, it's not going to be owned. But if you see a crate next to a wagon with someone standing in front of it, that's going to be owned, those sorts of things. And then there's pickpocketing, which is more nuanced and needs a little more explanation. So I'd like to introduce senior content designer Ed Stark to talk a little bit about pickpocketing.
I believe you've got some video.
Yes, I do.
So the idea with pickpocketing in a single player game like Skyrim or something, you might be able to just go up to somebody and snag their stuff. Well, we wanted to create sort of a little bit of a mini game. So here we got a outlaw or criminal, really, because anybody who's not an enforcer can do this, can come up behind somebody and they're getting a pickpocketing prompt. But one of the things we wanted to have is like, all right, you got a 50% chance of pickpocketing this person successfully. Oh, bumped up to 75. That means during a brief window, that NPC is a little bit less aware. So you have a better chance of pickpocketing them if you hit that at just the right time. Now, still, it's probably not ever going to be 100%, so there's always a chance that they're going to react, they're going to, attack you, they're going to run away, they're going to get, mad, and, bad things are going to happen. But other than that, you can go up there and you can lift stuff out of their pockets. And we've even been talking about, can we make it so that you see things on them that you take? We don't know yet. We're still working on it. But it's in progress. Obviously, the UI and everything is not completely done, but it gives you an idea. So there's, just a little bit more risk, a little bit more reward there.
And next is the idea of trespassing, which if you've played Skyrim, you're probably familiar with. And Mandy Parker had done quite a bit of work on trespassing, so here's her to say a few words about trespassing. I'm going to share a little bit here about that as well.
So trespassing was one of those things that we decided to do as kind of like a game jam thing. We weren't sure if we could actually do it. And we wanted to make sure that if we did it, it was super fun. So we have doors that are locked in every single, well, in most of the towns. And those are owned by NPCs that live there. If you are able to pick the lock and not be noticed by either passing NPCs or passing enforcer.
That's me doing a horrible job.
Yes, and if you can actually pick the lock too, then you can go inside the house and there might be a safe box. There might also be other items that you can loot, and you can certainly pickpocket or murder the person living there. This allows you as an outlaw to plan your attack in each town. If you know that Clang here is a wealthy NPC, you might want to go and visit his home first. And as an enforcer, what you know is Clang is a wealthy NPC, and he's going to be visited often. So you're going to want to sit around outside of his house or inside of his house and wait to see who comes in and see who has committed a crime.
You also notice I got a large bounty there, which means I'm not going to get very far until I am accosted by a guard and have to pay the bounty for that. Okay, and
Oh, you skipped over murder.
I did. And murder, it's fairly self-explanatory. You will be able to attack anybody. You will be able to kill almost anybody. That discrepancy is, of course, quest critical NPCs you're not going to be able to kill. Specific vendors and service providers you're not going to be able to kill because we don't want flight masters that you can never access, or the equivalent of flight master you can never access. But generally, pretty much anybody you run into, you're going to be able to either attack and beat down so they go into a real posture, or kill them and then do whatever they have on them.
Will you be able to attack other players, or just NPCs?
I will get to that. Yes, so that is part of the enforcers and outlaws. So, we'll get to it in a moment. So one thing to keep in mind here is witnessing is really of paramount importance. If you commit a crime and nobody sees it, it's kind of like the tree falling in the forest. Basically nothing happened. You have to be witnessed for your crime to matter. If you are witnessed, you will get a bounty, you will get heat. We'll talk about that in a second. But if an NPC sees you and they report you, they will have NPC reactions based on their personality and behavior that we're going to go through and we're going to assign based on, if somebody looks like they should behave a certain way. And to talk a little more about that is Mandy Parker again.
So this is one of the really fun things that we're doing. We're going through all of the NPCs in the world and we're assigning them personalities, which is a lot of people, actually. But each of the people are going to have a personality that's tailored to them and how they fit in that world. So we have somebody who runs to their door because they are a little bit cowardly. We have somebody else who's going to try and fight back, maybe not do a great job, but they're going to try and fight back. we're gonna have like mages. If you attack a mage will cast spells at you. If you attack somebody who's actually a werewolf, then they'll transform and they'll attack you. What we wanted to do with this is have each NPC have a distinct personality. And that way you can go into town and you can be like, well, that guy looks like a fighter. Maybe I'm not going to pick on him. Maybe I'm just going to go after that beggar over there who doesn't have a weapon. And so it's a really big effort to go through all of our NPCs and to see which ones should be killable and which ones, how they're going to react when you attack them. But in the end, it allows us to have more of a dynamic behavior system. So it's more of almost a sandbox environment. And when NPCs can actually witness your crimes, then you get bounty, and Stark is going to talk all about that.
Tag.
Yes.
So, yes. Well, this is a lot of the way development works. We pass things off to each other because one person can't do everything. So, bounty and heat is a concept we came up to reflect the idea that there are different levels of crime and different levels of caring among the NPCs. We have a really incredibly crude table that I made that sort of reflects this. Yes, my paint skills are masterful, but basically the idea is if you commit a minor crime, like you go and steal an apple from a vendor or something like that, well, that's really not a huge deal, but it's a huge deal to that vendor at that time. So what's going to happen is, we're using some placeholder terms here, by the way, but like you're going to incur a bunch of heat, a bunch of negative attention. That's represented on that first bar by the green plus the red lines. The red is heat. That's like, hey, stop, thief, somebody come over here, guard, if there's a guard in the immediate area, he's going to come looking. But that heat, that red bar, is going to degrade pretty quickly. Right now we're talking about like 1 point per second. So if you can avoid getting caught during that, 9 or so seconds of time.
So I'm showing here is a low reaction to a low bounty, which means you're not going to get actively pursued. Sorry.
Right. No, that's fine. So while he's showing that, yeah. See, we sent a message.
Those screens are the temporary versions of what would actually be saved. So what happened there was you had a low bounty, regardless of what you actually see there. The guards were not actively pursuing you, but I walked pretty much right in front of a guard, and therefore I got a cost.
And yeah, if we go back to the chart there, because our machine is so fast. Okay, there we go. Go back to the chart. Yeah, so I got this heat. It degrades over time, but you'll notice that that green, that's the bounty. That's the amount of money, or that's related to the amount of money that Scott just had to pay to get the guards off of his butt. It also serves as a new platform for any further heat. So if I go and commit a crime and I get, say, 10 heat, it degrades down to 9 bounty, and I commit another crime, well, it's going to jump up to 11, another minor crime. Again, crimes are like minor, major, heinous, we're talking about, murder or something. It's going to jump up more. And really, the red bar, the heat, is also going to serve as a temporary threshold because we're going to add on to that. So if you're going around just murdering people like crazy, you're going to see your heat jump up, tens, hundreds of points in a short period of time. Some of that's going to degrade, but there's always going to be that sort of aura of criminality that sticks with you. And while you have a bounty, NPCs are going to react to you, guards are going to react. We're going to explain that in the next bit, but you can get rid of this bounty over time or through chaos or things like that. But again, well, one other thing, the PvP aspect.
Yes. So, as I mentioned before, we kind of want to strike a balance and not rely too heavily on player enforcers to do our work for us. So some of the additional work that we're doing is some working on the way guards pursue you based on the amount of heat that you have. As Ed mentioned, if you have a lot of heat, you're going to get a lot more attention from guards. They're going to be much more active in pursuing you. And they're going to do things like, if one guard is pursuing you and you pass near to another guard, you'll kind of pass the baton to that guard, and that guard will begin pursuing you. So it's going to be very difficult to evade guards if you have a high amount of heat. One of the reasons that the bounty system got revamped from the earlier system was the way it was before. You could steal an apple and it pretty much acted like a serial killer and walk to you and arrest you. So this is sort of to differentiate between those different levels of what strata of criminal you actually were and what what sort of attention you deserve. So, as far as PvP goes, if I am playing as a criminal and I steal something and I am witnessed, if I ever have a bounty, I am flagged for PvP. And that means that somebody who is an on-duty enforcer can attack and kill me. In order for me to get out of that state, I need to pay off my bounty. So it's an opt-in sort of mechanism for PvP on the outlaw side. So let's talk a little more about the actual organizations, because we've now established that anybody can be a criminal, anybody can go steal stuff, but if you want to maximize your potential, you're going to have to join the Outlaws, because they give you access to services that let you get a lot of money and be a lot more effective at what you're doing. So basically, the Outlaws appeal to anybody who want to be on the wrong side of the law. That's a pretty broad swath of behavior types, and we're trying to appeal to both sides of that, the people who want to play the serial killer who has no compunction at all, to the thief who wants to live by an honorable code of thievery. And the way we plan to differentiate between that is with the skill lines and the way the skill lines can work and the choices you get in the skill lines as you progress. So yeah, you can play both ways. They're both viable ways of playing. The Outlaws also appeal to people who want to be able to sell or launder stolen goods. So let me talk a little bit about the way stolen goods work. If I steal something, that good is in my inventory, but it is marked as stolen. I can't sell it. I can't trade it. I can't put it in my bank. And if I ever have a bounty and I try to pay it off to a guard, all of my goods, my stolen items get confiscated. So there are two ways you can play. You can play as just a garden variety criminal who has a bunch of stolen items in their inventory, but the risk is always going to be there for those stolen items to get taken away if you're accosted by a guard. The other way to take care of that is join the Outlaws, and then you are given access to something called the Outlaws Refuge, which is sort of a safe haven that's beneath every zone capital. You can go into that Outlaws Refuge, get access to the Outlaws services there, one of which is a fence. And if you talk to that fence, he will give you the option to launder any stolen goods that you have, which you just turn them into regular old items that you can then do whatever you want with, or you can just straight out sell them to them, because a lot of times the things you'll be stealing will be things like forks, so you're not always going to be stealing high value items that you want to keep. So that's the kind of people who probably would want to play as Outlaws. This is a quick concept of an Outlaws Refuge. You can see the idea is basically it is littered with contraband. They're generally sewer-ish type or cave-ish areas that are underneath cities. They have lots of entrances around the city and just outside the city to try and prevent enforcers from camping those entrances and killing criminals who want to come clear their bounty. We are also looking at other ways to mitigate against that sort of briefing, like an ability or something that would allow you to get past a bunch of enforcers who just decide to hang out at the entrance to the most popular Outlaws Refuge. Now, there was some back and forth on, are you able to steal objects within the Outlaws Refuge? The answer is obviously, we have to let you steal stuff in the Outlaws Refuge. So you're probably never going to see it as cluttered as this, because a lot of that stuff is going to be stolen. So let's talk a little bit about the enforcers. So they're sort of the counterpoint organization to the Outlaws. Now, just like the Outlaws, we're trying to aim to appease both the lawful good paladin type and the lawful evil or bounty hunter-ish type. And the way we're going to do that, again, is through choices that we're giving to you via the skill lines, which you progress by, in the case of Outlaws, committing criminal activities, fencing goods, and for the enforcers, you would advance by killing Outlaws and getting rewards for confiscated goods. Basically, we want to give enforcers the ability to be either a good cop or a bad cop, whichever they want. Now, enforcer gameplay is kind of generally more focused towards PvP. They cannot steal, they cannot murder. If they do, they are expelled from the enforcers, and they will have to rejoin with cost money, so there's a deterrent from doing that. They are expected to spend the majority of their time patrolling for criminals, stopping criminal activity, killing outlaws, and returning their goods to the enforcers chapter to get a reward for turning the confiscated goods. Now, so let me talk a little bit about the Enforcers chapter for a second, which here is an early concept of what it is. And what you can see is it's kind of it's a guard tower that's appropriated by the mercenary group that is the Enforcers. They've added a bunch of stuff onto it to suit their needs. These are not in cities. These are outside cities. They're away from protection. The reason we're doing that, these originally were inside cities. We moved them outside of cities because we wanted to move away from the cat and mouse game of the Enforcers are the cat, the Outlaws are the mice, and make it more of a spy versus spy or a cat versus cat game. So basically, the goal is get the high value item to either the Enforcers chapter if you are an Enforcer, or to the Outlaws refuge if you are an Outlaw. So we foresee play stuff like an Outlaw steals a very high value item, is killed by an Enforcer. The Enforcer takes the stolen item from the dead Outlaw. If they res, there's just a bag. They can take all the stolen items from the person they killed from. Those stolen items appear in the Enforcer's inventory as confiscated, but they have all the same restrictions that stolen items do. So then we see, the Enforcer is going to want to get to an Enforcer's chapter as quickly as they can, but maybe that Outlaw is like, not so fast, he reses, he kills the Enforcer, takes the item back, and there might be a little bit of back and forth in the race to get to either the Enforcer's chapter or the Outlaw's refuge, and then the person who gets the first wins. Yes.
If an Enforcer kills somebody, can they res using a soul gem, or is it like a PvP death where you have to res it away from?
It is a PvP death as far as I know. So we may have to tweak that or not. That is, the plan is it is treated as a standard PvP death.
Are Enforcer always PvP flag?
Sorry? So let me get into that. Enforcers, the act of joining the Enforcers, just like the act of joining the Outlaws, doesn't automatically flag you for PvP. For Outlaws, you have to have a bounty to be flagged for PvP. For Enforcers, when you join the Enforcers, you're given an Enforcer a tabard. This is a very, very visibly distinct tabard that has the Enforcer's symbol on it. If you put on that tabard, you are flagged for PvP. It takes a little while to put on, it takes a little while to put off. If you do anything that isn't worthy of being an Enforcer, it's stripped from you, you have to buy it again. But that is to give a very distinct visual cue to anybody, barring an ability that would allow you to be an undercover Enforcer, that you will be able to see Enforcers from a long way away, regardless of what they're wearing, because they have to have the tabard to be on duty.
Okay, so I see somebody in the city is stealing, I have no tabard on, and then I think, I must, okay.
You would put the tabard on, like, if your goal was, I want to now patrol the city and see if I can catch criminals, you'd have to put the tabard on.
Okay.
Because the delay in putting the tabard on would probably prevent you from catching that crime. There's a little bit of leeway on witnessing crimes, a little bit before and a little bit after the crime is committed. You can still technically witness it, but it's still too short that I think you just need to have your tabard on if that's what you're doing.
Okay.
So, in summary, what can you do? So we've already talked about the things that you can do. Some of these things you can do as a criminal, not just an outlaw, but outlaws can commit crimes. Those are PvP activities unless you are witnessed. If you don't have a bounty, you cannot be marked by Enforcers for PvP. You can kill Enforcers, that is obviously a PvP activity. You can only kill Enforcers who are wearing the tabard, which is a signal that they're ready for PvP. If you kill an Enforcer, any confiscated goods they have, the outlaw can take back. And outlaws can also sell or launder stolen items, as I mentioned.
Do you get a bounty for killing Enforcers?
You do. You get a percentage of the bounty that the Enforcer has, that the outlaw has. I'm sorry, did you say?
If you're an outlaw and you
No,
kill
you do not get
an
a bounty
Enforcer,
for
so it doesn't
killing
raise your bounty at all?
Scott, I think what you mean is, so if I attack an Enforcer, I get a bounty which flags me for PvP, right? I mean, you
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I
But
meant.
what
Yeah.
you were asking,
That's what I meant, if it would actually go towards, would guards come after you if you killed an Enforcer,
Oh,
for
yes.
instance, for murder?
Yes. That would count, as long as it was witnessed. So Enforcers can also recover contraband and return it to an Enforcer's chapter for a reward. They cannot launder items. They just get the reward on items. That's the sort of penalty you pay for being a good guy in this case. But there are compensations, like Enforcers get a bounty for killing an outlaw. Outlaws do not get a bounty for killing an Enforcer. They only get the items.
How do you handle PvE type abilities. So I go in the house, kill the guy, take all the loot, and then I do a teleport to guild member. So now I'm at a way shrine outside the city. So I essentially skip part of the
That's
city.
a perfectly viable way of playing. You will still have the bounty, and the next time you go anywhere there is justice, a guard will come after you, depending on how high the bounty is, right?
But you could still go fence your stuff more.
Yeah, but fences are inside cities, right?
Okay. Well, I know you said some of the ways in was on the outside of the city, so.
You're right, there's one way, it's intended as an exit for if there's a whole bunch of enforcers in the city. But you're right, that would probably be a viable way of playing.
What if you had a friend that was inside the enforcer den, and you basically go steal and then port to your friend inside the den to skip all of that?
You probably would have to prevent that.
We do have the tools to prevent teleport to player and other.
Because that would be good.
That
It would be nice if you dropped your
that
loot
would
if
be
you
a world.
used
These are
port to a
separate
friend.
spaces, so that there's something that we would just probably not flag them as being able to teleport to.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm sorry?
Good catch, though. Because
They
you
are
know
global.
that would be
They
exploiting
were
the hell out
localized
of them.
for quite a while. It was zone-based. We have switched to them being global.
Is that in every city or just the capitals?
No, it is in every city. It is not only in every city, it is in every village or settlement that
Breaking through windows.
it appears like there would be law and order in. So it could be something, it could be 2 houses. So part of our rework is to introduce guards to those areas when needed. But we also need to kind of play with that and see, you know, we think it's perfectly fine for there to be an area where you can go steal some stuff. There are NPCs there, they're gonna witness you, you're gonna get a bounty. So the next time you are in an area where you would get caught, then you would get caught.
Last question. What if there's an outlaw who steals something and an enforcer, they join a raid group and go to Cyrodiil, and the enforcer kill the outlaw that's on his faction?
That's an awesome question, Paul.
In that case, we're actually determining how rules are going to work in Cyrodiil. I will tell you that we might not have the justice system active in Cyrodiil, just because of all the problems like that it would cause.
There's also, I mean, there are definitely areas, for instance, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have justice in Cold Harbor. So right now, Cold Harbor is not going to have justice. Do you mind, we're almost done if we push through. Or if it's short, I'm sorry. If it's short.
If you're an enforcer and you're attacking an outlaw, and can you accidentally kill another NPC while you're
Enforcers cannot, even with AoEs, enforcers cannot kill innocents or hurt innocents.
Okay.
When you put that enforcer tagword on, anybody who would be like yellow to a outlaw would just green to you. So.
Thank goodness.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Because
we're
my
trying to
aim
prevent
is
the kind of
terrible.
accidental. But so it's worth mentioning, we're also introducing something called clemency, which is basically you get a free crime once a month or once a week. And when the guard accosts you and you haven't used that, there will just be an option for, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, I'll never do it again. All right, this time. Basically, it's giving you,
But he'll still take your stuff that's stolen.
He'd still take anything you have that was stolen.
I'm sorry, I know you want to finish.
No.
I just had a quick question or comment about the fast travel point that was raised. I think a really simple and logically consistent and easy to understand solution you could consider is just to tie it to heat. Like if you've got a certain level of heat, you can't fast travel. That would make a lot of sense and everyone would understand it.
Well,
And he degrades quickly too, so it's not like it's going to prevent you.
What you just want to prevent people from like snatching the goods and then really quick travel a player before anyone can like do anything about it, and that would resolve both of those.
That would resolve a lot of issues. It might not resolve if you're in the interior and you steal and just like go upstairs and hang out until your heat dissolves before going back outside. But
You can't
I mean,
travel
you're right.
while you're trespassing and or if you have heat.
Yep.
But if you commit a crime, the raid shrine will be much more expensive than normal.
That's another option. All these things are things that, we're definitely talking about.
You have to run situation.
Okay, so the one thing we still haven't covered is the PvE portion of enforcers, because basically theft is kind of PvE unless you get caught. For Outlaws, we have an equivalent sort of thing for enforcers, and those are Bandit's dens. And to talk a little bit about those is Mark.
This is one of my favorite bits. I mean, I like all of the stuff we've been doing in Justice. I'm excited about it. But this is going to allow us to have a little fun. I'm sorry, there it is. Okay. Pardon me while I drive. So, when you engage in enforcer activities out in the world, what's that? Oh, please. I can't see it very well. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. So anyway, when you engage in your normal enforcer activities of, thwarting crime throughout the world, you're going to get some rewards. You're going to get some rewards just through doing that. But we also wanted to come up with something that was a nice PvE experience for enforcers to do that would be fun. So what we came up with was the Bandit's Den. This is like a hideout for all the thieves and murderers and smugglers and stuff in the world. They can come here and they can relax because no one will ever come here. Oh, but those stupid outlaws, thieves and stuff, they drop clues to where their dens are. And we came up with a couple of really, really rough prototypes on how you might get these clues. Here's one. Here's, oh no, a merchant is being threatened. I'm an enforcer. I also apparently have superpowers. And when I search these Midnight Union guys, I get some gold and, oh look, an outlaw clue. Again, prototype only. So the outlaw clue will allow me to get into the Bandit's Den, not Thieves' Den, Bandit's Den. Thank you. Doesn't say Thieves' Den. And now we're going to come up with a whole variety of little vignettes. That's what we call these little scenes, where the enforcer can get these things. It doesn't always have to be you go kill some guys who are threatening something. It could be you stop a particular crime. These thieves' dens will be located outside of the justice areas, or heck, they could be underneath the justice areas, like an old sewer or something. This one happens to be an old mine. Hey, buddy. Oh yeah, I turned off your aggro. You don't have any chance at all. Sorry. There are lots of little cul-de-sacs and everything in the mine, and as you can see, the bandits are standing around. They're pretty happy to be here because it's all safe and sound. And, oh look, here's some loot. They've got a little guarded area. Oh, he's dead. And there's a chest. Great. I'm going to grab some loot. Oh, what the heck is that? Oh, it's exploding. Good thing I have no kill on either, because I would be burning to death. But yeah, so we got trapped chests because thieves are naturally suspicious. The bandits are going to trap the things. Oh, also I'm just pointing out that the base poppers did this with Midnight Union assassins. That's because this is outside near Wayrest. And hey, you've run into Midnight Union guys probably in that area anyway.
So what would be in the chest that
you're
going to open?
Let's see if we can find a chest and get it open. So again, oh, here's another chest. Now, again, placeholder stuff here, but here's one I can unlock. Oh, I can do it. Normally there's no trap on this one, so yay. This is also one of my favorite parts of the game. I like lockpicking. Okay, so here I just found some normal stuff. Now, one of the things that could have popped up in the loot window is, just like Scott said, there's going to be contraband items. This is the hideout, after all, of the Midnight Union. So they're going to have a bunch of contraband goods. Now, that stuff I just got, I can equip that, I can spend that money, no problem. But if I find, say, stolen goods, contraband goods, then I'm going to have to take it back to my chapter house, and I'm going to have to turn it in for a reward. So there'll be a mix of things. Keep in mind, this was done in about a day, so congratulations to our world builders and level designers on making this look as good as they did here. And I dedicate those deaths to them. Also, so all of these, I did not have time to go through and clickify all of these things, but just like this, there's going to be things in here like food, bottle. These are not stolen goods. They're just things I can pick up. Yes?
Are outlaws allowed in this place as well?
No, this is not a PvP area. We didn't want to put outlaws in because it would be, oh, geez, sorry, didn't mean to make everybody's stomach upset there. We didn't want this to be a place where a bunch of outlaws could just come in, sit behind the door, and gank you as you came in. So, I want to do that. But we do have things like, oh, here's a boss with his tiger. He's probably a really tough fight, so I'll just kill him. So this is, as you can see, it's not a huge area. In fact, to me, it kind of seems a little bit small. I mean, there's some trap chests, and we're going to put other traps and other cool things in here and puzzles, but, hey, what's this? It's a waterfall. I wonder if this goes anywhere. Of course it does. I've been here before. You might have guessed. But, oh, and there's another treasure hoard. So the idea back here is we're going to actually do something we haven't done yet in the game. We're going to create maps that don't show you the whole environment. So you come into this area, when you find it, yeah, it populates on your map. Technically, that's us giving you a second map, but from the player's perspective, you're going to see the map, get populated. And here's a chest, and okay, just going to check it out. Okay, if that had been a trap chest, which unfortunately it isn't, because I wanted to show you that, and I will, it would actually show me the trap, and I'd be able to try and disarm it. And there's even the potential that I could get something from disarming it, like that last fire trap. I might get some sort of flaming oil or some other appropriate loot from the trap itself. And we can put in things like tripwires, we can put in cave-ins, we can put in all kinds of, aha, here's one. See, fire trap, disarm. Now, we're probably not going to turn that into a mini game because we've already got the unlocking chest thing, so you might end up having to play 2 mini games back to back, and that could get a little irritating. But we may put in a percentage chance of you failing it. It might be something you could improve on your skill line. So that's about it for what the delve is. We're going to a typical bandit's den would have more traps, would have a variety of traps, would have more bosses, more areas with stolen goods. We even might theme the areas, so like you go in one area and there's a bunch of consumables, another one might have a bunch of stolen crafting items, things that you can use once you take them back to the Enforcer's chapter house and, cash them in for reward, or if they're not stolen, you can just use them outright. So, sorry, I lathered a little bit there. And then, in this particular case, I would walk out the same way, but you don't need to see me do that. That's it for the Bandit Den. Any questions specifically on that while he's calling up there? Yes.
So how do you plan to develop enough bandit dens that both their locations will remain a mystery? Like for each zone, you find the clue and you learn where one den is, but then every time the den isn't in the same place. And also, how will you make sure that they're not like carbon copies of each other, so that you'll end up seeing the same den in 2 locations, or different dens in the same location? Will they all be unique?
Well, the second question first. We're going to try and do them all unique, yes.
Yeah, we learned our lesson from default.
And that means we're not going to release a ton of them at first, but it is a nice thing that we can continue to add on to the game, especially since they're discoverable. But you will be able to, like, if you get a clue, if you get a clue, get a clue. Yes, I made that joke before. Then you can go back, you can go into a bandit's den. If you get the same clue again, you can go back in again. You haven't exterminated all the outlaws, they restock, but it's sort of a fiction that we're willing to live with. But we do want to put multiple ones in a zone, so it's not like you're going to the same one every time.
You do make an interesting point where possibly there's multiple entrances, and you find
multiple entrances would be a good way to approach it.
Yeah. And we also, since we have the ability to use, spawn tables for our monsters and everything, it might not be the exact same mix of mobs every time you go in.
Yeah.
So even though it's guys from, say, the Midnight Union, it might be a totally different type of bandits. Yes.
You said when you disarm, say, for example, the oil trap or fire trap, you said you'd be able to loot something from that?
Maybe. I mean, that's, again, one of the things we're thinking about, and maybe you guys can tell us whether you think it's a good idea, but I always thought...
You said like a pot of oil, is that something you would like throw at a...
Yeah, I always thought that would make a nice little consumable that, yeah, you could use it to slow down an outlaw or a bandit or something. You could use it as just a general attack thing. Maybe it becomes something that goes into a crafting bit. I don't know. That's just one of the ideas we're floating around because it seems like there's an opportunity there.
Maybe you can repurpose the trap, so you can stick the trap on a door, so that the outlaw tries to open it, and boom.
That's a good idea. You're writing these down, right?
Yes.
Because it'd be nice to take their traps and use them against them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe if you're holding contraband, you can't fast travel or something.
That's certainly possible.
That way, the enforcer has to walk back.
Yeah, I mean, we would want to restrict the enforcer the same way we'd want to restrict the outlaw if we do that.
Also, maybe with whatever you get from disarming a trap can be used to imbue your weapon to give you bonus damage against outlaws.
That's another good idea, yeah.
Can you,
actually,
go ahead.
And then, sorry, I'm trying to go in sort of the order.
What I saw was really awesome. However, I see a lot of different items on here. How do you plan on handling the inventory space? Because I know you said, this will come on soon. There's collections trying to clean up inventory. We don't have stacking siege yet. How are we going to handle all this contraband?
Well, like I said, that was very prototype.
Mhm.
We are, that was actually one of the things that Rich Lambert brought up in our playtest. He's like, man, I'm filling up my inventory real fast. So, we have to play sort of a balancing game there. We're going to have to figure out exactly the right amount of stuff you get, right amount of contraband versus regular items. But then, that could give you a reason to go back to the place. It's like,
Were you talking specifically about guns or just in general?
The picking up the contraband in general, being
We
an
wanna
additional
encourage
item.
you to have to go to chapters and or refuges to offload your contraband
Mhm.
or stolen items.
because that's part of the game. That gives the outlaws and thieves a chance to stop you.
I was wondering if these would be group friendly as well, so you can go with a pack of people.
Yes.
As long as it wasn't an outlaw.
Yeah, we're planning on what we're talking about, maybe putting like a limit to the number of people who can be in any individual version of it.
Right.
But yeah, you and your friends should be able to.
Okay.
And again, as long as it's not an outlaw. Yes, and then.
Do you plan on putting bus monsters inside?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that really lame, that was me just killing that guy, but that one, that union guy with the tiger, he was like, and the thing is, we also kind of want to put in multiple ones, because we don't want this to feel like there's a specific end point. I mean, all those little cul-de-sacs that had, spike things and trap chests and everything, any one of those could be someplace where a boss-type mob could be.
I mean, it's early enough that we've been talking about having multiple hidden rooms, and maybe that's their goal.
Yeah, and we didn't put a puzzle in there. We were thinking about having a puzzle that you'd have to unlock.
I'll let you go first, your old man.
Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, given that, like, being an outlaw, like stealing something has an inherent risk to be pursued by the guard, are those items that you get going to be, say, like, more valuable than just like a random item you can pick up off a monster? Like, is there going to be a financial incentive?
One of the things that we're doing are themed cookies, essentially. So, I'm sorry, let me phrase that another way. There will be areas you can go that you can target, and you will be assured, or at least have a much higher chance of getting higher value goods. And I think that, yes.
Okay, let me tell you guys about loot.
Okay.
Just jumping up and down here.
Because that's a super fun part. So Zach and I spent a lot of time going through each zone, and we figured out like all these different kinds of things you could loot that's related to the story of the zone, that's related to the story of the world, that's related to even just regular things like forks and knives, right? But everything in there, which we call flavor items, those items, some of them can be stacked, some of them are more valuable, and those are less likely to be stacked. Some of them you can stack up to, I think, 5 we have in our working version. But if you get like forks, you can stack those too, however many you get. But if you find like a really important, I don't know if you can think of something off the top of your head.
I was going to say, Zach, give us a funny one.
I think there was one that involved a tusk that's like, sort of like covered with silver and like inscribed. It's really important to somebody, and you just took it.
Yeah, is it the tusk full of skooma?
So I didn't want to spoil that, but maybe,
don't tell anybody.
Maybe skooma hiding it somewhere.
But yeah, those items are really valuable. So then you might be able, those are not stackable because they're super valuable, right? But then you can take them back and they'll take up more space in your inventory. But you'll have the other ones that are like 20 or 100 or whatever we have as our stack limit. And those will be worth a lot less, but you can have a stack of them. And in addition to that, all of our NPCs are going to have loot that pertains to what they are. So you can loot a fisherman off of it, or you can loot a fish off a fisherman. That would be weird the other way around.
It's a big pickpocket.
Yes. Right, or yeah, pickpocket. You can do this
Big
with
fish.
a blacksmith. You can get maybe an ingot off of a blacksmith.
You can take the shirt off someone's back.
Yeah, there is a very small percentage chance you might be able to steal their underpants.
That's awesome.
While they're wearing it?
Yes, it's like Zoolander. So,
I want to do it. Also, these guys, I mean, they've been writing crazy interesting things, like, tell them about the baby movies.
Oh, yeah, so basically there's we want to make you feel kind of bad about stealing some of this stuff. The one that's my favorite is the bag that says her first teeth. And so once you get rid of the teeth, I mean, the bag is velvet, so it'll probably go for 5 gold. Yeah.
I don't feel bad about that.
I don't know how far you can get into this or anything, but can you guys touch on the skill lines and just what the theme is that going to benefit, or it's just going to be like passive that benefit?
We can only talk like very, very broadly about them. They are going to be themed, so a percentage of them are going to be themed to, for instance, for Outlaws, help you commit crimes undetected and then help you escape from pursuit from enforcers. And then some of them will be more general. And the same applies for the Outlaws.
So they'd be mostly passives, or there can be like an alt where you drop all the heat, you know, and...
There would be a mix of passives and actives, not just be passives. Although our brainstorm meetings seem to be a lot of... Passives are easy to come up with a lot of those. Work harder on the actives.
But, I mean, we don't have a definite plan for that. Bandit is working on that right now. But, you know, we also don't necessarily want to say, oh, well, we want you to be able to slot all enforcer actives or something. But who knows? Maybe that's what you guys will tell us you want.
But these skill lines will be pretty much only applicable to the justice system. Like, I couldn't take
They wouldn't,
an enforcer thing and do
they
a
wouldn't
trial.
just be applicable to the justice system.
That's part of the
There would be
trade.
some that would, but they wouldn't all be.
So like an active, if it is in some degree, have a utility in a trial for an enforcer, I could use it.
Yeah, it would be much more likely, and again, this is totally speculative at this point, it'd be much more likely that an active would have some general use as well. Whereas a passive, we don't mind saying, oh, this is pretty much just, you know, outlaw or enforcers.
Okay.
When I'm stealing ingredients, of course I can't sell them. But what happens if I'm using them? Will this be also as marked as stolen, or can I then
No.
use and sell it?
You can, so it's a lot like, basically, anything that's stolen, you can craft with, whatever you want with it. If you do that, it actually prefers those items automatically. It will use those first, and the item that you make as a result of that is no longer stolen. It's like you just melted down the gold to make something.
I have an idea. Maybe you guys can have like drug running quests between cities. You know, Skooma, and then vice versa for the enforcers. They gotta move contraband. That way you can bring it outside the city walls and gates, and there might be a little interaction in between.
Yeah. Delivery quests.
Can I get your name so I can send that to
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Paul's gonna want you to have you change that to stolen goods running.
We certainly don't have any quests right now that deal with running Skooma.
And maybe it could be based on how much stuff the outlaws turn in or whatever, the enforcers, like they turn in enough, and then this quest pops up for someone to take.
We've definitely, that's something that's on our future radar. Right now, there are no quests associated with these, but that's on our radar for the future.
You can also do wagon trains.
I have 2 questions. One's probably a really quick a pass, but so I'll do that first. Has this idea evolved as a superior way to implement the gameplay that you were looking at doing with ESO Guild Dark Brotherhood, or is this in addition to?
If I could just wrap, just
Okay.
real quick.
Let me hold on that then.
No,
Okay.
just
let me round this up real quick. So we know this system, as we launch it, it's gonna have a whole bunch of stuff to it, it's gonna give you a whole lot of stuff to do. But we are seeing it as a base platform from which we can, in the future, do a whole bunch of other stuff. And as you just kind of pointed out, I'm sure there's in a lot of your heads, there's sort of a thematic resemblance to other certain Elder Scrolls types of things. So we're not allowed to discuss those things except to kind of say,
All right. My actual more relevant question.
Oh, great, now it's gonna leave.
You wish.
Was it this sounds like a really great experience to have, like while you're leveling up a new character and you're going through all of these areas naturally and you're doing the quests in the towns and you're in and out of town and you'll just happen to see some opportunity to use these systems. For current players that are already at max level, where do you envision them participating in these activities? Because like civilization in Craglorn is not, it's not a hub of civilization. There is Belkarth, but like, do you envision high-level players going back to lower-level zones to do justice system-y things, or where do you see the sort of civilizations hubs where max-level players will do this stuff be?
Sure. That would presume that Craglorn was the top, right? Sure. And since we hope it is not, then I would see that going into other areas.
Maybe Orsini makes sense.
Yeah.
So my question's quick,
In other
but
words, it'll be
sort
in
of going off
Stonefall.
what he said, it sort of leads me to ask then, what's to stop a max level player from going back to an earlier zone and witnessing a level 8 type player looting something and just completely smashing their face because they're so much higher level? Like, how is that balance?
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that. I mean, there would, apart from griefing, there wouldn't be much incentive for that person, but yeah, we're gonna have to work at making sure that they don't have people.
Is all the contraband going to be primarily sold for gold or used in crafting, or is it going to somewhat be filed, like we're going to do a costume, or maybe we'll get like a rare piece of gear or something like that that we can take?
It's gonna run the gamut. So you talking specifically about confiscated items?
Yeah, like if I go in and loot someone's wardrobe, am I going to get just like a piece of crafting that I might sell, or am I going to get like a piece of gear that I might be able to use?
It's going to run the gamut. There'll be a small chance of you actually getting something that you...
So there will be like viable items that we can use as characters?
Yes, and if you want to continue using the stolen at your peril, that's fine, but you're better off laundering them, obviously.
So could there be like instances where the players like maybe fighting over an item set piece? Like that sort of spy versus spy thing where he respawns and comes back, like they're really fighting over like an insanely valuable item.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
So like if he's equipped with stolen armor and gets accosted by a guard, would the
You'll
guard
be
strip
naked.
him down to his...
We were just talking about an achievement related to that.
Over here first. That way.
Did I get a title for enforcer, sheriff, marshal, or so? Or are there no titles? Or
Are you talking about
thief,
like a
master
rank
thief, or
system?
killer?
Yeah, I don't think we've worked out the titles, but it's not hard to imagine that there might be titles associated with the system.
Start off as wearing a cop.
If I steal something in dagger form maybe, and then I went or flee to another city, how does the guards know that I am criminal? Because in Skyrim,
Shifty
for
eyes
example,
Google.
There's lots of times we make fictional conceits for gameplay purposes, and this will probably going to be one of those times we make a fictional conceit for gameplay purpose.
We thought about that quite a bit, and originally, like I said, we had bounties tied to zones, and that was one of the reasons we did that, but a bunch of other factors sort of came into it, and we just kind of had to accept that abstraction. So yeah, that's where we are now.
And then leave the swallow with a note on his foot.
So, being realistic, day one justice system, I go to a low level zone, I kill every NPC I can. Are those NPCs ever going to respawn, or are they gone from the game?
Oh no, they will respawn. They will respawn. And a large part of our balancing is how do we make sure that that is not a...
Right, so one of the things I don't think we even covered was how tough guards are, and how strong guards are. We have gone back and forth on this a lot. There are many people who want to go kill guards and think that it's going to be completely viable to go kill guards. But if we let people kill guards willy-nilly or even easily with 2 or 3 people, all of the guards would be dead and all of the town would be dead. So we have to be pretty careful about how we deal with guards, and so guards are probably going to be a little bit stronger in how they deal with you. So you are certainly welcome to go in and try to be a mass murderer, but the guards might have something to say about it.
Outlaw raid group?
Indeed, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, for those of you who don't know me, my first game experience was on Ultima Online. The griefers are well known. So, yes, I fully acknowledge that there will be
groups of 40 to walk in and try to take over a town. That's going to be okay. We'll see what happens.
Main cities become the new trials.
So one of the biggest things that I hear from players when discussing the justice system and knowing that it's an upcoming feature is their excitement for the ability to participate in a 1v1 with their friend or whatever. How easy is it going to be for players with a friend or an enemy or whatever to just say, hey, I slotted this new ability, I'd like to test it out on you, and using this system for that side of things, is it going to be easy to jump in and say, hey man, you go Outlaw real quick, I'll go Enforcer or whatever, let's test this out?
If you have the money, it's pretty easy to do. Okay. It's easy to switch sides. I mean, they are mutually exclusive. You can, if I join the Outlaws, I revoke my membership in the Enforcers and vice versa. But I can certainly be with a friend and just to do exactly what you said. Sure. I don't see any reason why.
And the way and keep in mind, the way it works for PvP is, if you're an Outlaw, then you can attack anybody wearing an Enforcer tabard. If you're an Enforcer, you can attack anybody who's got bounty, and attacking an Enforcer gets you bounty.
Right. So I mean, your friend, you could just, one of them you can put on the tabard, and the other one would just be able to attack you. Right. Here.
How are you going to address sneak on a same alliance basis? Because currently in Cyrodiil, if you're in sneak, you can see all your friends in sneak. But now if you're an enforcer, if I hit sneak, can no one see me? Because now I'm targetable by anyone as an enforcer, should they be able to see me in sneak. And then the same would go for people that don't have a bounty. Should they be able to see me even though they're not flagged as an outlaw, they still have the option to kill me.
Yeah, that is so my understanding is that, first of all, we don't allow justice at all in Cyrodiil.
Oh, I'm not Cyrodiil, I'm just...
You're talking about just
yeah, you're right. Sneak will change from the way you know it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in Cyrodiil you could see everyone on your team that's in sneak, but in here where it's more cutthroat, I would find that as a concern would be, I want to put on the enforcer, for example, but if I'm in sneak and there's nothing I can do because everyone can see me, there's no benefit to having the tabard on until you're ready to...
That is right.
Will that work the same way with the group, too, with like the arrow over their head? Like if you're in a group with that person, and you're engaging in a fight with them or something?
No, the group rules would override these rules.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I kill mighty persons like Queen Irene or something?
No, what we're doing there is something that is called client-side reactions. So if you attack somebody who's quest critical or service NPC, you will see yourself attacking them and them taking damage and them taking a knee, but everybody else will see them. Will see you free swinging and them not taking damage, so they'll still be able to interact.
She should just take her down.
Well, and some of them might be able to do that too.
Right, but probably not.
I missed something about the bandits then.
Yes.
If I don't have this item from the corp, do I find this bandit den or do I?
You could theoretically find the den, but you don't have the key to get in, so you have to go find it.
I need the key. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm calling it a key. We used a note clue
The
because
note,
we actually
yes.
were able to put. We haven't decided exactly what the item is, but yeah, basically you got to have one to get in, or be in a group with someone.
You have another?
Oh, okay. I would ask all who want to be enforcer.
Maybe.
Risk reward, we'll see.
Who want to be criminal?
I mean, I think it'd be fun to try it out on...
I'll have one of each. That's a fantastic split, actually.
Yeah, agnostic. So somewhere in there, put like a little old lady that is totally OP.
As a Nightblade, I gotta
Please, somewhere. Totally helpless looking old lady, and she just lights you up.
Only the character. I can have a character who is enforcer, I can have a...
It's just like you can have different...
That would be awesome.
People try both.
I mean...
So there was a question that came up earlier, and I mean, you weren't here for this presentation, but with the lore and writing, you know, someone asked about morality scales and their use in other games.
Totally
and I
light
think
you
it
up
totally
like a
makes sense why that is
tribal
not
boss.
implemented in ESO. But one thing that I've always found a little bit cheesy about the Elder Scrolls series is that, like, paying off your bounty is such a, like, blank slate on your character. Like you just pay some gold, and all those people you murdered are like magically washed away.
You don't see that as a meta commentary on society?
It's absolutely a meta commentary on the society of Tamriel, I suppose. But I guess
Tamriel, yes.
Any way that, like, you know, your black deeds might manifest as some sort of notoriety score or some sort of like Paragon rating where, you know, you might have some sort of prestige associated with the blackness of your heart or the pureness of your soul.
That's an interesting idea, especially like for the future when we talk about things like, there was a quest called Phantom Guilt, I think it was, where you had a cursed ring and you killed people, and if you killed people, the ring would kind of torment you by occasionally saying
yes.
So maybe
that was a
looking,
great quest.
Maybe looking
I never
at
got rid of the ring.
Yeah,
maybe looking at doing something like that, where you were haunted by your actions in some ways. That maybe it wasn't mechanical.
Well, and also talking about achievements and things.
Yeah.
Leaderboards.
Yeah, I would like to get on his point because as soon as you can intimidate, it is so much easier just to intimidate everyone. You can intimidate just to spend, to save money or to save some quest steps, and this would help that you maybe think about, should I really intimidate everyone I can intimidate?
Yeah, it gets
so what you're saying is, it doesn't make sense to you if, say, I could intimidate a guard to lower my bounty and have it work every time?
No, I mean, as soon as you learn to intimidate by the fighter's guild, and you go around the world and make quests.
It's such a shortcut.
And yes, it's such a shortcut that you just always intimidate. And I think it should be. This would
really
help
feel bad.
You would feel bad. You would think about, should I really intimidate every person I can intimidate?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just because it helps me save money or
so tying that into if there was some sort of
yeah.
That's very interesting.
Interesting idea. We hadn't thought of it.
When you attack somebody, there's things.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, like, Admiral Silver,
That opens up so much that they can do.
Nobody knows who you are. Is it gonna like make logical sense? You could like commit a crime in Stone Falls and then go to Orendon and the guards still know that you're a criminal?
So that was brought up a little bit earlier.
Was that the question?
Yeah, it's one of the conceits that we're just gonna kind of accept. I don't think it was across Silver.
Rumors travel fast,
yeah,
buddy.
We're basically just saying everybody knows.
Tamriel space.
So let's say I'm a fresh-faced kid from the streets of Canada, and I decide that I'm going to start my career as the greatest Canadian criminal since Justin Bieber. So I put together a team of George Clooney and Brad Pitt. We go steal an apple, and I get seen stealing an apple. Can they just kill me for stealing an apple?
No, so that is part of. Well, who kill you?
Say like there's an enforcer just wandering around,
there's
watching
a
birds.
threshold for when you actually. So I misspoke a little bit. There is a low-end threshold that we haven't decided on yet what it is, where you won't automatically be killable by enforcers just because you stole one.
Yes, that was a good question because I did want to clarify that because yes, you can't just attack somebody immediately when they steal the Twinkie, right? Like it's really got to be they have to have a high bounty.
They outrank.
Got it. Tweeting now.
If I'm in a trial and there is a thief who has a bounty on this, and I put my tablet on in the trial.
My understanding is there is no justice in trials, but
Yeah, there will be valid places for these, and there will be invalid places, and I think trials and dungeons and those things will be invalid places for them.
Can I just wear my tabard all the time?
Yep.
You certainly can.
We'd like you to do that.
Flags for PvP.
And also, you get you're going to get rewards. We haven't exactly decided on how it is, but sort of like an anti-bounty. I think you were calling it for doing things in the world while you're wearing your tabard. Like, you know how the Tamriel is just populated by bandits all over the place. Those NPC bandits, if you're wearing your tabard, you're going to get additional benefits for killing them. You know, so we'd like you to wear your tabard because I mean that flags you for PvP, but it also allows you to progress your enforcer skill line.
It also prevents you from accidentally hurting an innocent or stealing.
Yep.
can't you create a medal slot? Because I think if I want to wear my guild tabard all the time, I cannot if I am an enforcer.
That has come up.
Yes, so we've brought that up in 2 different ways now, so that's a good point, which is you found out about collections yesterday, I believe, and so we talked about putting costumes into collections, right? But that doesn't handle disguises, and it might not handle this as well. So there may indeed be another inventory slot for that. I don't know yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Imagine I want that all my guild is a guild of influencers.
Enforcers, sorry.
Yes, and I would like to that everybody on the game know that we are enforcers, and I would like to have my guild emblem on the tabard also. When so do you think that this is something that we could do to put our guild emblem on the enforcer tabard?
So this is similar to the
previous question, yeah.
Yeah, but it's about 2 different tabards and talking just
it's different.
one.
I actually don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I'd like for it to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think the enforcers have their own unique symbol, and therefore it will be a unique tabard, and you'll have to choose between your guild tabard and your enforcer tabard. At some point.
So let's say you're an enforcer and you're chief of police and awesome, and you decide one day you're going to be a serial killer, and then the next day you recant and become an enforcer again. Will you will you lose all your enforcer progress in that skill line?
No.
But wouldn't it make it more meaningful so you couldn't just flip sides, like today I'm a serial killer, tomorrow I'm a cop? Like,
our current plan is that you're not going to lose your progress, but you won't have access to that kind of stuff. So you get access
lose
to
your actives and stuff or whatever.
And remember, there is a cost associated as well.
So are you guys trying to? You guys, do you want to promote people being able to flip whenever they want?
So I don't see a problem with that. I think if you're playing both ends against the middle,
if you're an enforcer and you want to become an outlaw, you should, in my mind, you should lose all credibility with the enforcers.
Which you do. You
do
will
until
expel.
you-
But then if you switch back, you guys.
But there's a cost. There will be a cost, much like a respec or something, and it may be an escalating cost, maybe based on how bad you were. We haven't gotten to that yet.
But is it gold again, just like the meta for everything, just switch
Money
gold,
talks.
killing people, pay gold, switch.
We come to your house and smash your mouse and you have to light
What would you prefer?
You want to steal?
What would you prefer other than gold?
I would prefer a penalty into your enforcer skill progress, or maybe resetting it is too extreme. Like losing points into that.
Like losing
thing.
50% of your rep or whatever.
Or having even a delay between
You
being able to
were
switch.
a high society guy, and then all of a sudden you start stealing, killing people, and then all of a sudden you can switch back and be like, oh,
So I don't
I'm a
know
good
that-
guy again.
I don't know that it's a bad idea, but I do know that losing abilities is actually somewhat difficult as a back-end type of scenario for us. I mean, we can have you lose abilities, it's not terrible, but at the same time, I think there's a percentage of people in here that are the 1%, and we'd certainly consider it, but there's also those people who really just kind of want to try one or the other, and then when they do that, they get really frustrated, and they're like, oh, this is terrible, I just lost all of my progress on this because I wanted to try one or the other. And so it's always a balancing act to know which one, to be harder on this or to say, okay, well, we want you to actually be able to explore both and see how that goes. And we're erring on that side.
And the other thing would be, as an enforcer, if I confiscate an item that I really, really want, it might actually be, if it's enough for me to switch sides just so I can monitor that item.
Well, and another thing for you, for like the one-handed shield, your main progress bar, I'm just gonna go off the general thing, 1 to 50, and then your passives below it, you just lose your progress to the next level, like 31 to 32, it just goes back to the beginning of 31. Then you wouldn't lose heals or anything, but it would slow your progress to getting that ultimate level 50 passive.
I mean, that's something we can definitely
That's not
explore.
too drastic, you pay a little bit, but it's not anything crazy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something
we
we
can
can definitely look into.
will be a serial killer leaderboard?
So there have been discussions about things like having a piece of paper on a board in a town that shows the top towns where the most murders are being committed, where the most crimes are being committed, as ways of sort of pointing enforcers towards where they should pay attention. That stuff's all very early. There's no guarantee that that's going to get in, but there's 20 posters.
Tell them about the All in the Family achievement.
The All in the Family achievement, if you kill 4 members of the same family.
At the moment, I think there will be more enforcers than outlaws.
You think there will be more enforcers than outlaws?
My question is, can there be very mighty items to steal so that I think I have to be an outlaw because the risk is good?
So it's interesting, and we definitely need to kind of figure this out, because internally our concern is that there are going to be more outlaws than enforcers, because people want to engage in the criminal activity, and outlaws are the ones who can launder items.
Accidental stealing.
Yeah, and that's why we sort of have been we were creating some other things for the enforcers to make their gameplay more interesting. Maybe we went too far the other way. So you're right, I mean, we're going to have to balance so that there's not 80%.
I don't want to steal only apples and bananas. So.
Right.
So I was thinking about the backwards balance where people grief people at lower levels. Like maybe you can have guards scale in increments of 10 to your level when you reach that level. That would be kind of hard, I guess, but it's one way to stop people from going back if the guards attack them. Or you can have it so whenever somebody kills somebody or does something in the town, you can join a channel, a chat channel that says where this person is at the exact moment, and then other people, like enforcers, should go back and do that. And then enforcers can grief too, the low levels. So the same thing with outlaws. Like if you're doing outlaw stuff, you can join the outlaw channel and see enforcers griefing people. You can go back to the beginning village. And
So essentially letting the high-level enforcers and the high-level outlaws police and help them. That's an interesting concept too.
I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In Aeon, it didn't work at all. Not at all.
I have a terrible and loaded question, I'm sorry. So, seeing how this system sort of adds a new layer of world PvP into the game, on a scale of like 0 to 1%, what are the chances of like this leading to maybe an eventual desegregation of the alliances, and like your alliance's territory is your alliance's territory, and having some sort of optional PvP flagging, like instead of wearing your enforcer tabard, you're wearing your alliance's tabard, and I mean that would be a massive change for the game, but
that would be a massive change for the game.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that anytime soon, but I wouldn't say I just don't foresee that.
Alright, so suppose you're an outlaw, you don't have enough money to pay your bounty. Is there any possibility that the guards are like, put in the stocks for 5 minutes and you can't move?
That's a really good idea, yes. And we definitely want to look into things like that.
Maybe we could throw fruit at them.
That would be awesome.
Currently what we have is we have a bounty that's decaying over time, so versus just having to pay it off, and that's the current thing. That's what I imagine when the system comes out it'll be with. And then, like everything you're hearing right now, there's a system that's going to come out, and then there's how we're going to build on it, in time to come. And so what I imagine will happen when it comes out is that we will just have the decay, because we also don't want people to get into a zero-sum game where they have zero money at all, and then they're just stuck with a huge bounty. I mean, at some level, it's like, well, don't be that guy, but
I didn't mention when I was doing that. I mean, gave you the kind of the quick overview of the whole bounty heap thing. But bounty does decay over time. It just doesn't decay really fast. So a couple of avoid getting nailed for a couple of days. Go on some wilderness things. It's going to go down.
That was why I mentioned immediately after that too. That it is supposed to be viable for you to play with a bounty. So that it's not like you just have to log out for 4 days.
The guard's like, oh, you can't pay? Well, I'm going to stab you anyway. So.
Well, we also, I mean, an idea I think it was Scott came up with was the idea of clemency, that you might have an option of, oh, well, every so often, you can basically just void your bounty, as long as you haven't gotten it too high, and that's to sort of get the guy who accidentally did it, or started doing it and didn't like it, and it's like, so okay, every once in a while we'll give you a mulligan, and, so we can help out with that.
And just because we didn't touch on this though, so if I only have, if I cannot pay my bounty, when a guard kills me, they extract what they can, and I may then res again with a partial bounty, whatever the difference was.
And if it reduces down far enough, the guards don't really care as long as you're not doing anything active. So you can have a modest bounty and walk right by a guard, and he or she doesn't care.
I'm just wondering about a disincentive in terms of like, I could take all my money, give it to my friend, or put it in the bank, and then go do any criminal activity I want. If I get caught, nothing happens.
I want to be your friend. Because I'm going to be a new type of criminal.
I'm just wondering like what could happen at that point.
Well, when you say you can do anything that you want, you're going to be severely hampered if your bounty is high from doing anything in any kind of justice area.
Right, well, I'm saying like you can go and steal things and then try to go sell them. If you get caught, then you have no money to pay off the bounty. So I was like wondering what would happen. In that.
Could break their gear by killing them.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get your stolen gear taken from you. You're gonna have
your regular gear is gonna get damaged.
It should be like the IRS. They just take everything you own.
That's interesting.
That's two options.
That's the divorce system.
Yep, exactly.
Does the bounty degrade if you log off? Or is it in-game time only?
It is real time.
Which is why it's a long time.
Okay, so let's say, with just defeat the purpose, someone just accumulates this high bounty and then just, I'll log on.
Right.
Nobody can get me.
What will come first, Imperial City or bounty system? Justice system?
It is not for us to speculate on which one will come first. Did you notice how I jumped in front of that one?
Can you short explain or show the video how pickpocketing will work? I didn't realize.
Okay, Zach, stand up there. So again, what we had in the video was kind of Did you want to show it again, or do you
We
want
can
me
show
to
the
just
video.
run it?
It's a little.
And you can only pickpocket NPCs over there, right?
That's
Currently,
correct.
yes, that is the case.
Just go to Glen Umbra.
I don't see it.
You would be awesome if you could pickpocket enforcers while they have their tabard on. You would be a guy. You pull that off.
We have talked about pickpocketing guards as being sort of a spam.
Can you
So
cut
again,
Special achievement.
This is really crudely done. The idea is you sneak up behind somebody. As long as they can't perceive you, you can attempt to pickpocket. Notice there's a percentage chance of success right there. Right now it's at 50.
Yes.
In a few seconds, it's going to open for a very short window. You saw it jump up to 75. During that like short 1 to 2 millisecond, or not millisecond, 1 to 2 second window, you had an increased chance of pickpocketing the person. So it's like a little bit of mini game. You can skill up your ability to pickpocket. So you might come up to an NPC and you're like, oh, I got a 90% chance. I'm not going to wait for this to bump the extra 10%. I'm just going to hit it, and then there's a random roll.
And I believe the ultimate implementation is it's supposed to do more of this, not just kind of go from 50s.
Right. The UI there is totally not done.
There's going to be a question that's going to be asked. I'm going to see if any hands go down. No, you cannot pickpocket other players.
Okay.
Oh, and then, now, the other thing about pickpocketing is, well, there are a couple of things. One is, loot goes directly into your inventory. You didn't see a loot window pop up. That's kind of because of the high-speed nature of this. We are going to have a messaging that says, we decided that it's going to actually be what you got, right? Or,
The plan is that there will be a message that works like some people's favorite add-ons. That tells you when you get an item. Yeah.
Okay. And it will actually be a part of what that person's loot would have been or will be if you kill them. It's not just a...
Right, and then you can pickpocket the same NPC potentially multiple times. Eventually, they will run out, and you can explain the Clickyville aspect of that.
Sure. Which part of it?
Just
all of it.
Just that it's not always the same people that are, so it's only a certain percentage of people are pickpocketable to you.
Oh, So yeah, it's going to be kind of like the way, I guess Doug talked to you guys about Clickyville, right? Okay, so it's going to kind of work like that. So you go into a zone and sometimes you'll see that, you know, Clang in his banner is pickpocketable. Next time you go in, if you like completely looted the place, you might not be pickpocketable. Maybe like 60% of them will be pickpocketable or something. But it'll decay over time. So if you just go in there and you just clean house, you have to actually leave the zone or log off and then return. But then a smaller amount will be available.
Okay. And I can't kill Queen Irene, but can I steal her crown?
You can't kill her.
No, he said he knows you can't kill a crown.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Just like the no-kill option, we're going to reserve the right to flag certain NPCs as, no, you can't pickpocket. But we want to use that hammer really judiciously. I mean, you know, the thing is also, different NPCs will be easier or harder. Like, one of the things we talked about is that you could pickpocket a guard. And now, of course, that's really difficult. And I guess the guard's reaction, if they see you do it, isn't going to be, I run away, or, oh, stop doing that. No, it's going to be, I'm going to hit you with this sword.
But that will be a good bounty.
Yeah, it'd be great if you get it.
You may be able to pickpocket cheese from a certain.
Ah. That'd be cool for a high reward though for pickpocketing.
Very much would be.
I have a more relevant question this time. What protections will be in place to help prevent the accidental commission of crimes? And like two motivating examples is one, like in Skyrim all the time, my mouse like flicked over the red thing instead of the white thing. I'm like, oh, my last autosave was 3 hours ago, you know. Or as in ESO, as a sorcerer, you know, a lot of folks will use Bold Escape or Lightning Form just as a way to like get around town quickly, and I don't want to be like hurting all these NPCs.
I've got good news for you. There'll be a toggle that says I want to participate in justice right now.
And if you accidentally steal something, the bounty is not that high. It's a couple gold, depending on what you steal. But most of the stuff that you can steal.
When you open,
and also, sorry, one other thing. When you go to a container that has a owned item, it's not going to say take. It's going to say steal from.
But if you're used to, you're saying if you're used to just kind of
can the crime be when you take it out of the container, not when you open?
It is when you take it out.
It's not when you open it.
It's not when you open it.
So that at least
you can open it, see what's there, and decide it's not worth the risk.
Yeah. Well, can auto loot not work with stealing if you do have auto loot on? I mean
That's something we definitely.
I'm just worried about like stealing on by accident.
Yeah, right. Yep. That's what we're talking about.
We really don't want people to accidentally steal or even accidentally wound or kill. I mean, this is not. I mean, we want to be as realistic as possible, but we don't want to be the collateral damage people. Because you could be running around, what is it? I think it's Wayrest or Daggerfall or something, where these assassins jump out at you and fight, and you set off a AOE and you kill some guy's chicken, and he freaks out. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about how we're going to deal with AOEs.
Obviously, when this launches, it's going to have a huge hype, and a lot of people are going to be doing it and going around stealing things. The loot, like the pickpocketing, is that going to be in a way instanced to me? So if he goes in and pickpockets them, am I going to be able to go in and have my own kind of loot table for it?
Yes. You will be able to pickpocket the same person and give someone else.
Okay, I was just saying,
instance to you.
It's going to take 2 weeks before I loot
Which is, again, that's the way Clickyville is set up.
And that person might not be available for both you and your friend.
Right, since it's a spawn table, there's a % chance that any given person will be
But if he kills him, I don't see him anymore.
That's true.
Right.
Yes.
For sure.
Well, again, we have spawn controllers that'll keep a minimum number of people up.
So my question, I guess, kind of like crosses over into skills and skill balancing, but what are your guys' thoughts on specific classes and specific skills playing a certain role in this system? So, for example, maybe Sorcerer is an outlaw, and they can always get away from a guard by bolt escaping, or even another player, for example. How is, like, it's obviously an issue in PvP already, but given that there's, you know, I don't know, it's like different now because there's items at stake and things like that. What are your guys' thoughts on those types of abilities, or going invisible and things like that? They're going to greatly affect somebody just completely getting away from a specific situation with an NPC or another player.
So for another player, I mean, it's all about balance, right?
Right.
That we would have to be informed and work with the gameplay team to kind of see what do we need to do to counter these pre-existing abilities.
I'm still here on the floor.
Oh yeah, there's. Oh my God, are you still here?
Get a bell!
So as far as the player stuff goes, that's probably what we would do. The rest of that, we'd have to talk about.
Guards will probably have special abilities too that'll, apply like dots or snares.
Let them have that GM death touch.
Well, even right now, in the very, very crude prototype we've got, there are some guards who have ranged weapons, and they do a lot of damage when they shoot. So
Guards are going to be very, 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 very effective.
NPC guards.
NPC guards.
Yeah.
there aren't any player guards.
Anything else?
Can I chop people's heads off from where their faces like every other presentation today?
No.
Okay.
Do you anticipate this system, which looks really good, do you anticipate it having a positive, negative, or no effect on Cyrodiil? Because it's it might attract PvE players to check out PvP, which is kind of like a benefit to the end game of Cyrodiil, or it might draw a lot of players away from Cyrodiil and actually pull away from the experience of the players there. Do you have a feel as to what it might do, or whatever it does, and...
So my particular take on it is that this, as I mentioned in the presentation, this is sort of a soft introduction to PvP, and that it would actually help Cyrodiil in the long run. Probably, I don't know what it's going to do when it drops, for a month after it drops, but I would think that in the long run that it would actually help PvP. That's shared.
I think it remains to be seen. I think players have surprised us before on what it's going to do, honestly. It's going to be a very different experience than what they'd get in Cyrodiil, so I don't know if it would influence them too much, other than just the, fighting one another. But again, I think the experience is going to be very different. I think that we're going to see a lot of players who are doing exactly I'm 40 people and I'm going to try to go in and take over a town. And then, we're going to have a lot of people who, want to get in and be the justice side of things, who are just hunting criminals and that's all they do. And then we'll, of course, have criminals then who form the gangs back. And so I kind of expect a little bit of that, but I don't know how much it's going to influence Cyrodiil, to be honest with you. It'll be an interesting thing if it does, but right away, like the initial impact may be somewhat negative as people are trying it out, and if it's not active in Cyrodiil, and then we'll see what it does long term to it.
Okay. Yeah, my opinion was totally biased because I'm not generally a PvP person. This to me seems like something that's really into it.
I just kind of like see, the potential for like the 40-man raid thing. That might typically be like a PvP group coming from Cyrodiil to do that.
But then you get the 40-man enforcers trying to stop them.
Yeah, and then...
That's more people away from Cyrodiil.
And then you have to empty Cyrodiil.
Right.
I hope there's more important people in Cyrodiil.
I can speak with many NPCs. If I hit E, what I hit must have hit pickpocket.
You have to be crouching. So if you're crouching and you hit E, then you're pickpocketing.
And you have to be behind them.
Yeah, they have to not be able to
behind
see.
and
Yes.
I'm crouching. Okay.
And
then I
you're-
pickpocket and so on. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So you mentioned how you can turn the justice system on and off through a toggle. Will that mean that the people that are toggle justice on will be in separate instance sections of cities than people that are not in the justice system? Because I can foresee a lot of lag happening due to battles in the towns, and then it affecting people that have nothing to do with the justice system, and then you just get a bunch of angry players that are just lagging, just trying to walk through a town.
So, one of the reasons we want the guards to be so effective is to prevent the kind of long, drawn-out battles that would cause that kind of lag. There are no plans right now to separate out or do any kind of phasing between if you have justice on and justice off. What you're saying might be wrong.
Because with the numbers that let's say the 40-person number that you tossed out there, 40-person battle in Cyrodiil causes quite a bit of lag. So if you put that into a main zone that's got a lot of traffic, people coming through for questing, banking, vendoring, stables, and all that sort of stuff, and you plop that dead center of a city that's already got a pretty heavy server load because it's a pretty large zone, that's going to cause most probably quite a bit of lag.
That's why I
Because
was-
you'd have to have tons and tons of guards to police that many people.
Or the guards would have to be extremely tough, right? And that's the dial I'm talking about, where our guards will likely be extremely tough. And I don't know that that will go over very well. That's one end, because people want to kill guards, but on the other end, when people understand, okay, this is for those reasons, it's for making sure that we don't just have a lot of people coming in and committing crime all the time and doing these things. That's why we will have those guards that way.
We do a play test. Well, we try to do a play test every week. We don't always have something new to show the team. But one of the things that's on our schedule is a 40-person play test, oddly enough, to just see what happens internally. And of course, all this stuff is going to go to PTS, and we really want to get a look at it before we just go here.
And kind of piggybacking off of him, the place I envisioned is Ral Kahad. It's already super populated with commerce and stuff, and a 40 plus another 40-man Zerg running through that. I'm pretty sure my computer will crash if that happens. Like, regardless of the guards, before the guards may kill them quickly, but that instant of them getting in there, like I already get like 22 frames per second.
Which is almost a self-correcting problem, because they will also crash, and they will say this is not a good place to go do this.
So that's just what's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. Or?
Well, so you know what massively multiplayer games are like, right? There's you don't get to control what players go do. You provide incentives for them to go to steer away from things. Unless we get really hardcore and say we're going to start teleport storming people out of areas.
Or, having a certain amount, a cap on people who can be actively in the justice system in a certain area, like Ral Kahad, which has a super high population pretty much all the time. That wouldn't be a big deal in Stormhaven or something, but just the major populated towns where everybody always goes to after they finish raiding that low gear.
Also remember we have mega servers. Also remember that sometimes Ral Kahad is something different for different players, like there's different channels, is what we call it on the back end, right? So it'll naturally separate players out that way. So I can't say that there won't be those people going in at some point, but there are mechanisms we have in place to help prevent it.
Well, that's what I meant with moving the people who are part of the justice system onto a different channel, a different phase of the exact same instance. So all the justice people are together, so they don't affect the people that have it turned off.
It's certainly possible, but I don't know yet what the balance is going to be for those people who might not participate. So it's hard for me to speculate on that.
It seems like that would be something that we would do if that was a problem and not be our sort of first resort, because we want people not involved in the justice system to see this stuff going on and to sort of be enticed by that as well. So.
All the way in the back.
A comment is that a nice reason to keep people all together is that people who aren't participating might be enticed to start exposing themselves to that system if they see the
That's exactly what
others are having. But my question is that, what are your thoughts about the needs to maybe tweak or change the respawning mechanics? So like if someone's got a bounty and an enforcer kills him, and then they're at the way shrine and it's just like this spawn camping fest, like you still have your bounty each time you respawn.
Yes, we are totally aware. That's one of the first problems that we knew we were going to have to deal with was camping at entrances to refuges, camping at entrances to chapters, camping at way shrines, and what we do to address that, whether it's an ability, whether it's a temporary buff that prevents you from being killed for a certain amount of time when you raid way shrine, or some sort of safe zone.
You just select your way shrine on death.
Yeah, maybe another cool thing to do is if it's like a justice related death, you could give players the option to respawn at their den or chapter house.
And if you've been reduced to 0 bounty and had your confiscated goods taken, there would be no reason not to do that.
That's true, but if you couldn't pay your bounty,
right, that would be the problem, because then otherwise then it's kind of like a free transport.
So is there any possibility that through the justice system, if you kill somebody, you could earn either alliance points or experience or something like that?
I couldn't answer that.
I doubt it, because then that's really super encouraging at some level, and then that actually starts to get into some weird behavior.
But also technically you're on the same alliance still, I mean.
Yeah.
No alliance.
You can yell at them in chat.
One of the suggestions that was brought up last night by one of you guys was the idea of actually putting a price on another player's head you know, certainly we want to have gates to that, but, you know, what would you think about that? Like, you know, some enforcer kills you, and as an outlaw, you might have the option of going, hey, I'll take 100 of my gold, offer it to somebody who kills this dude. You know, what would you think of that?
I'd love it.
Yep.
I got people I would put that on right now.
I think it's a cool idea. I think it's unique, and unique can be really good.
There would have to be a system in place to prevent griefing on it.
Exploitable.
Yeah.
Or
Was it someone in this
like
room
Monopoly
who had that idea?
Or
No, actually, he left already.
I love the idea. You want to make sure that it stays as an opt-in system.
The problem.
It would have to be if he killed you on the recap or whatever, it says you want to put
I
him on
mean,
a list.
this was just something that was brought up last night, so I haven't really given it a lot of thought, but I mean, I think about it, you'd have to be flagged for PvP
there'd be a
to be
problem
killed
with
still,
it.
that just putting a bounty on someone.
EVE
does not
Online
make you
has the
flag
bounty system, and they just get a friend to kill them, and they split the money. So if you have a friend in your guild, you put on your tabard, they kill you, then you just split the money. And then it really negated putting bounties on people. Some people would just keep the bounty because it looked cool, and they could have the, you know, there'd be a leaderboard, so people would want to go after them. But a lot of other people just split the cash because they had a friend kill them.
Well, I know it's been a long 2 days, and I know we've got about 20 minutes before, but I was going to see if you wanted to call it and get back to your hotel and spend a little time, and then we've got, when are the bands here?
I think 7 or 7:30.
7:30. Does that sound good? And then we'll see everybody at dinner?
Yep.
All right. Once again, thank you so much for coming. It's very important to us.
Thank you for having us and bringing us out.